Ah, the Huns, the greatest fear of the civilized world from the steppes during the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, and partially being responsible for the Western Empire's downfall, with Attila being one of, if not the best leader of the Hunnic Empire. But in 476 AD, the year of the Western Empire's downfall, the Huns are no longer united, as their empire fractured a few years ago, leaving only the legacy of Attila. But what if we change that? What if one of Attila's direct descendants reunited his glorious empire, proclaimed himself as the heir of Attila, and finished what he could never do, conquer Constantinople and Rome itself? And that's exactly what we are going to be doing today. So right away at the start of 476 AD, the large Hunnic Empire that is present in both the 361 and 395 start dates is now gone. There is only now a few small tribes in the steppes, with two of Attila's direct descendants ruling over such fiefdoms. In this case, we will be starting as the ruler of Jedistan. As compared to his brother, he has claims all over his brother's titles, so they will be useful for our reconquest. But sadly, we are considered a cadet branch of the Ulnid dynasty, as the main branch is considered extinct, and without a custom decision or some weird console commands, there is no way to claim the dynasty head of the proper Ulnid branch, so But anyway, enough with these ramblings. We need to start conquering our way back to an empire status if we plan to defeat the Eastern Romans. And our first task shall be to murder my half-brother to get his lands for free, as we focus our direct attention on conquering the lands of the Kingdom of Sarmatia, as fully controlling Sarmatia or Pannonia is required for taking the decision to restore the Hunnic Empire, and there is a lot of small petty fiefdoms that we need to do to conquer, so we can do that, so let's get on to it. But as usual, a faction was formed by the Slavs of modern Moldavia, demanding independence. As I was way weaker than them, even with my allies and my brother on my side, I decided to let them go and focus on the steppes in the meanwhile, as later I would come back to annex them, considering we would need the region of Pannonia for the decision. The plot to murder my brother was on its way, and it turned out to be a successful endeavor. Sadly, I was exposed, or the plot was exposed, so I was now considered a Kingslayer. But that didn't really matter, as I was just one murder away from taking his former lands, as he managed to get a son in the meanwhile, so sadly the poor little fellow also had to go as well. With his death, I took over my half-brother's land for free and continued my reconquests. After gaining enough gold, I was able to create a proper kingdom tile, the title of Alania, so my realm wouldn't split in succession, at least for now. But our conquests would not stop, since being a tribal nation, the power is gained through constant warfare and raiding compared to being a more stable feudal kingdom or bureaucratic empire, and so I decided to make my way over to the Pannonian Basin, taking over Slavic counties and duchies to access to those sweet arable land of the Pannonian Basin. As we still needed to conquer the region of Sarmatia, since we need to fully control either Sarmatia or Pannonia to take our decision, the Crimean Goths were next on the list. After another successful murder plot, I will attack the Duchy of Lebedia, as with those counties I would be able to become the king of Sarmatia, meaning that just a few counties more and then I would be able to become the emperor of the steppes itself. So with that in mind, I also attacked the king of Scythia for another duchy, and just like that I was just one county short and another kingdom title and some cash to create the title of the Caspian Pontic Steppe. And when short in cash, what do you do as a proper tribesman? You go raiding! But not before I noticed that this bloody game, Theodoric decided to stay in the Eastern Empire and went on to conquer some of the Pannonian land that I needed for my decision, so now I will have to fight the Eastern Roman Empire either way before reforming the Hunnic Empire. So in the meanwhile, I decided to take my frustration on the Quadi instead and take their part of the Kingdom of Pannonia. But I guess death had other plans, as midway through the war, my guy died, leaving his dwarf son to continue his dream of reuniting Attila's empire. Yeah, I know, a dwarf is not exactly what you would picture as the heir of Attila, but life has some weird moments. Anyway, after a brutal war, the Quadi surrendered, giving me their part of Pannonia, and just in time as a few short wars later, I was able to create the empire title of the Caspian Pontic Steppe, not only making succession a lot easier to deal with and less messy, but it also gave me the chance to ally the Sassanids and a few other powerful rulers that combined we would be able to be strong enough to take on the Eastern Romans for the rest of Pannonia. With nothing to lose, I went forward, and with my weird alliance of anti-Roman rulers of the likes of Huns, Persians, Germanics, we went to war to take the rest of Pannonia from Roman hands, knowing full well it was going to be a costly endeavor, but hey, we are the Huns, when have casualties have been a concern to us? Not only that, but we also had the terrain advantage, as many of the counties of Pannonia were plains, where our horse archers get some terrific bonuses. So with that in mind, have 100,000 men marched to fight in the basin in an all-out brawl for the ages. It took some time for all my allies, even the ones from Persia, to arrive, but they arrived just in time to converge our forces and take the fight to the Eastern Romans, who were eager for a fight, but unfortunately for them, they were suffering heavy attrition in the mountainous terrains of the Carpathians. So combined with their arrogance, they were defeated multiple times, even defeating the Emperor. At some point we actually managed to capture the Emperor in a battle, but died immediately from a seizure. Yeah, a seizure from all things. So I was not able to force a surrender quickly enough, and we were forced to continue fighting the Romans under the new Emperor. But foolishly enough, the new Emperor decided to lead his troops like the last Emperor, and he got captured. So either way, the war was over and we had taken over the whole of Pannonia from Theodoric. What a fool Theodoric was. If he only just decided to instead take over Italy as Zeno requested, he could have gotten glory and fame far greater than he could have ever imagined. Maybe in an alternate universe. Okay, that's enough future self-sponsor over. With that war over, now I only need to get to level 4 of fame and completely control the rest of Sarmatia, or Pannonia, something that even at this point I hadn't noticed, as I still thought I needed to control the whole of Pannonia and Sarmatia, not either one of them, but oh well. So I continued conquering my way over Pannonia and Sarmatia, defeating the Gepids and other steppe rulers along the way, and engaging in typical murder plots that we Huns should be used to by now to get over some legal ramifications like truces. A few years later, I noticed that the Persians and Romans were at it yet again in a conflict over some random-ass county in the Caucasus, while also being at war with the Illyrians over some province dispute. So, thinking that this was the best time to attack the Eastern Romans yet again, I launched my war for the final province of Sarmatia that was in control of the Romans, again thinking that I needed Sarmatia alongside Pannonia, but I digress. We took the war target fairly easily, and since the Romans were distracted with other two major wars, I decided to take a little vacation to Constantinople to test how strong those Theodosian walls truly were. And to the surprise of no one, they didn't stand a chance against a bunch of angry Huns, even if it took forever to siege the capital down. A few moments later, I noticed that the Romans sent a part of their army to besiege the war target, so I sent my army over, and after sieging the target yet again, I turned my back to fight the Romans at the walls of Constantinople, still under my control, where they swiftly lost, winning the war for us, and now all of their requirements were now met to take the decision and proclaim myself as the true heir of Attila. If it wasn't because I had negative prestige, so the whole idea had to be put on hold while I got enough prestige from a hunt. I am ready to call every clan leader from across my vast realm to a gathering. They will proclaim me the heir to Attila, rightful ruler of all that is under the sky. From there, we conquer the world before me. The clan leaders all know why they have been called. We spend a long night secluded in the palace yurt, and they summon shamans and generals alike to speak before them. There is no debate. I emerge from the tent as the first rays of the sun breach the horizon, and the entire gathered army is already awake, awaiting. They greet me, knowing that I am not merely the ruler, I am the heir to Attila, ruler of the universe. This is where my conquest truly begins. Not only does this decision restore the Hunnic Empire title itself, but you also gain a massive army of special troops to use and gain a perk similar to that of Great Khan in base CK3. So basically we were a nerfed Genghis Khan, but who cares about that, as that's a little too early for that. With the Hunnic Empire back, there is only one thing left to do. Finally do what Attila could never do and sack both Roman capitals, with the first one in our sights being Constantinople, as the defenses in the last war have proven that they are no match for our great Hunnic army. And so with an army of 35,000 men, we arrive at the Theodosian walls yet again to claim what is rightfully ours. But then the game tricked me, as when the empress died and the new emperor took over, my siege progress was reset, and I had to siege Constantinople and those damn walls for a third time by now, before catching the remaining Roman army in the Caucasus, winning the war. And I will let the narrator from Battlefield 1 take the ending of this sentence.
This victory will be saluted by our allies all across the world. But we cannot rest. We must now claim our most glittering prize, Constantinople.
With our new capital in Constantinople to spite the Romans, I decided to make a holy order for Tencri faith, cause why not? At this point, the Eastern Romans were broken beyond repair, as everyone started attacking them while they were down. But that was none of our concerns, as we still had to conquer one final Roman city, the Eternal City itself. And with it being so weak, thanks to now being an independent city from any major realm, our invasion force had no problem ravaging the surroundings of the city, destroying the pitiful army they had and capturing the city for the world to see that the Hunnic Empire was back. This time not going away anytime soon, as we still had so much potential. But that's for another time, as our story ends here, with a dwarf emperor claiming the mantle of his great-grandfather. Next week, we will be exploring the interesting world ahead of a promising Germanic king in the Eastern Empire, while maybe restoring the Western Empire and mending the rift between the Germanic and Roman peoples. If you would like to see more content like this, remember to subscribe, as this really helps out the channel. This was the Factus Expert, you're dismissed, soldier.